Welcome to Economically Speaking by the Nigerian Economic Students Association at Pan Atlantic University. In this podcast, we delve into the crux of economic matters that are affecting everyday Nigerians. We analyze, we deliberate, and most importantly, we prefer solutions to these problems. My name is Nasirudeen and I'll be your host. With me is
Oluwadarasimi, and I'll be the co-host for today. With us today is Dr. Ekundayo Peter Mesagan. He's an energy economist and a faculty member in the School of Management and Social Sciences. He is a part of the Governing Council of the Nigerian Economic Society and was a member of the drafting committee of the Nigerian Agenda 2050.
Thank you, sir, for joining us. In this episode, we'll be discussing a question that every Nigerian has been asking. What band am I on? So that's the title of today's episode. And the reason why we are discussing this topic is because there's been a lot of changes in the energy sector in Nigeria, especially when it comes to tariffs. There have been arguments for and against the removal of electricity subsidies, and arguments that discuss the impacts that this can have. Will it help us attract more investments to the energy sector? Will it help us solve our power problems in Nigeria? And then there's the other side that's saying, how can you remove another subsidy when people are still reeling from the effects of the removal of FX subsidies and fuel subsidies? So today we are trying to discuss this topic and see where or how the government can go about implementing a policy that will be beneficial to all Nigerians. So, sir, the first question that we have for you, the first point of discussion, is we want to just introduce the topic and explain to people what some of these new policies are and the potential effects that they will have on Nigerians.
All right, thank you very much. The Nigerian electricity market is something that is really very interesting because of its technical and specific characteristics. You can't talk about electricity. When you talk about electricity, you talk about the demand and the supply sides. Now, it's a bit different from what happened globally because the demand side is a bit weak. Now, the demand determines the supply because people are always looking, in Nigeria generally, we look at the supply. We look at, how many band of electricity or what is the kilowatt of electricity I can have access to per day, per week. Things like that. That's why we begin to blame government that we don't have light, the light is not stable or something. Yes, that is supply. However, the demand is the major driver driving electricity supply across the world. For instance, if an investor is to put in his money into electricity sector, one thing you want to check is that, can I get my money back? Even without, let's forget about profit for now. Can I even get my cost back? That's when you start talking about cost-reflective tariff. Is that clear? So in Nigeria, the challenge we are having is that, the electricity sector has gone through different phases, right from the 60s till date. And we have different transmission phases. Under the administration of President Goodluck Jonathan, the electricity sector was privatized. And then we began to see it was unbundled. NEPA was unbundled. And then we then have some GENCOs, about 6 generating companies. We have 11 DISCOs. However, the transmission remains federal government. Okay, TCN. And we experts, we say that what happened is a partial privatization. It's not a full privatization because as long as we still have government in the middle, who transmits. Because if you generate, it still has to go through the national grid. That's what we have been running. Now, there were agreements that were supposed to hold between, to operate in this sector. Different agreements, different phases of transmission, transmission phases. And up to now, the challenge the sector have been facing has been investment. The generating, yes, at times we generate more than we distribute. Currently, we generate at times we generate about 15,000 megawatts. We transmit just 3,000 megawatts. There's a transmission problem. Now, the transmission infrastructure is very weak. And, well, you can say old or something, and people call it national grid and all that. And thank God for the current administration, right from the end of the last administration, I think something was being worked on, and the new administration of President Bola Ahmed Tinubu has signed the new 2023 Act into law that now kind of unbundled to an extent the national grid. Now, state government, electricity now has been taken off from the exclusive list to it's now in the concurrent list. So the state government can now generate. Regional government can come together and generate. But the challenge with that is, as experts have said, why it is good to have some mini grids so that we can have more effectiveness. The challenge is that running mini grids can become more expensive than national grid. National grid is cheaper to maintain, although because of maybe the terrain and the infrastructure insufficiency and all that is chaotic. Having mini grids, for instance, Ogun State government, Ogun State or Osun State or Kano State or something, having its own grid can be very challenging to manage. And that is why the cost is huge. To generate electricity is really massive, and then to transmit it. So if you now talk about that, the cost per kilowatt might be something very massive. And that is the problem now in the electricity sector.
So are we now saying that the way the electricity sector now is in Nigeria is not enough? The sector is not developed enough, or is not structured well enough to attract the necessary investment that is required to.
Yes.
So that's the main issue.
Yes, something like that. I forgot to end my thought. Now, looking at the per capita income in Nigeria, maybe unemployment situation or things like that. That's why I was talking about the demand side. The capacity for people to be able to afford stable electricity is almost non-existent in Nigeria. So when those capacities are not there, the people really love it. But where is the capacity? The income earning capacity is not there. If that is not there, then the huge income that can encourage people to then push in massive investment into it is a problem. So there's a mismatch between demand. The demand is huge. People want electricity, but what can we supply? Then even if we generate, what can we transmit? Where is the infrastructure? That is the
Which is so we need investments in transmission.
Yes.
And we need Nigerians to be able to
affordability.
The tariffs.
Yes.
Also, we wanted to ask your opinion on the government reducing subsidies for the electricity distribution.
Which is what's brought about the band A, band B, band C. So that issue has been, it's like social commentary on this band thing. So I just want to explain what they mean and what's the effect of those different bands are.
And also its relation to how the government has also made recent fuel subsidy policy.
Yes.
So how is that connected?
Okay. Now, when you talk about the removal of subsidy from the electricity supply system, if you merge it, I think there are two different things. Looking at fuel subsidy removal, electricity subsidy removal. However, if they are coming at the same time, then you might say it's going to, it will have excruciating pain on the people. Yes. Electricity is a different market from petroleum. In fact, the consumers are almost different, though they are similar, but they are different. Most times, most petroleum products are for vehicular movements. And that is why the argument says that we are subsidizing the rich. Why not remove it and use the money to take care of the poor? Because many poor don't have cars. Even some rich men have 10 cars, fleet of cars in their compound, and you are subsidizing them. That is for that one. But when you talk about electricity is basic for everybody. Whether you're a rich man or a poor man, you need electricity. So, and when electricity is stable, it's going to create employment. Creativity will come. You see all these small offices spring up here and there, people doing photocopy, people doing printing, people doing all sort of things on their own. There are a lot of, there's a lot of linkage effect in the economy if electricity is provided. You understand? So that is why that one is different. Now the challenge is that energy generally, for every nation, energy security is a matter of governance. Every government, every administration all over the world want to guarantee energy security because you want your people to have this, because energy drives growth. So talking about electricity, it drives growth massively. Now the challenge with that, and that's why government has come in and said, okay, if we are going this way, we then need to begin to look at how we can, there's this multi-year tariff order, MITO 2.1, that was, being deployed. In the multi-year tariff order that was agreed upon in the electricity sector, there are different phases by which electricity tariffs will be charged. It's already stated there. Okay? Some to 2 years, some, there are different yearly something that, okay, we are going to remove, it's going to increase by this. They are already in MITO. Now the challenge is that the capacity of the nation, can it carry this? That is the problem. That is the earning potential of the people. Can it carry it? Because government is looking at the possibility that maybe going forward, for instance, like you mentioned Agenda 2050, even in that Agenda 2050 document, we're expecting that by 2050, you understand, electricity will be fully privatized. It's full private sector. You are dealing with your supplier, not with government. You understand? At that time, whatever you are generating per kilowatt, you are paying for everything. If it costs 1,000 naira per kilowatt, it's you and your supplier, but you're going to have stable electricity supply. Because we don't expect Nigeria by 2050 to still be talking about band A, band C. Even if you are band D or band A, it should be 24 hours. Now, that takes us to band. If government is looking at, removing subsidy, because you must also encourage the investors of electricity. Look at people using solar in their homes. Look at how much it costs to install solar. To generate electricity. For instance, you have generators, you might be using generators in your homes or something, your parents or anybody. Look at how much it costs you to generate those electricity. Do you understand? Imagine you are running on your generator 24 hours. And these Gencos, they use solar powered plants, and these are massive investments. And most of their inputs are in foreign currencies, they're in dollars. And they sell to Nigeria in naira. Anytime there's a depreciation, it also affects their costs, their bottom line. So all these things, and now an escrow account was set up, when it was being privatized, that to take care of some of these shortcomings, that okay, if they make losses, government comes in to fill in the gap. That's where subsidy came in. But government cannot continue to subsidize it if we want it to be effective, if we want electricity to be available 100%. And that's why government is trying to do it in phases. Band A, Band B. And Band A, people are people that are enjoying electricity for 24 hours per day. That is what the law says. To what extent?
20 to
24 hours. Minimum of 20 hours per day. Yes, don't even talk about 24 hours because we know it might be difficult. Minimum of 20 hours. But are they even enjoying 20 hours? Because the discos were apologizing to the people, you understand, the other time that sorry, but we'll try and meet up. Band B is now -4. That is minimum 16 hours. Band C, 12 hours. Band D, 8 hours, and so on and so forth. You understand? So that is how that band comes into force. So that at least this discos, I won't just mention discos because there are a lot of players in the industry. You have the generator. All these guys, the investors, at least can cover costs and make small bottom line or profit.
Because another thing is that you even see that the federal government is owing trillions of naira to this just people in that electricity supply chain. And I don't know how. That's what we are saying now. If you're already owing the present investors, how do you invite new investors? And then if you can't invite new investors, how do we go on to generate or to get to where we are going to? So, do you have?
Yes. We also wanted to ask your opinion on metering gaps currently in the country, right? The electricity distribution sector, and how these metering gaps have affected the lives of households and companies who are trying to use this electricity.
Metering gaps. The prepaid, before we were using the postpaid metering systems, and that was a total, I would say it's a total fraudulent way of it, because a lot of people bypass some of these things. Just some people connect light directly without even using nothing and be enjoying. And government find it that no, this brings so much waste, creates so much waste in the system, and then we came up with this prepaid metering system. That prepaid metering system would have given us the perfect solution to the electricity sector. However, how many homes have this prepaid meter today? If every home, every resident can have prepaid meter, in fact, let me tell you how it's going to solve a lot of problems. One, if we are generating, let's say, 15,000 megawatts, and let's assume we are even transmitting, I'm assuming we are transmitting 10,000 megawatts. Let's even say 3,000 megawatts. Let's assume. And it is based on subscription, like your recharge card. If you buy it, you have your access. Now, it's only those that have their prepaid that will have access to this thing. I'm telling you, you see electricity go around. That 3,000 megawatt we are generating will go around several homes. There will be no wastage. But imagine only a few, maybe 1/4 of the population have metering system. That is the prepaid meter. And some people still sabotage this. Some people even still bypass the prepaid meter.
Yeah.
Although anytime you see a bypass, it's a fraudulent, or we call it wastage to the system. That is fraud, and it's a wastage to the system. So if we generate 3,000 megawatt and maybe 500 megawatt is going through bypass, you see the problem now. And these are the challenge. And anybody that is not going through the direct means of connecting electricity through the prepaid, then you see wastages. You see them leave their homes or put on everything. If you are using prepaid meter, you have to monitor. In fact, you will know how many kilowatt is your fridge consuming, how many kilowatt is your TV consuming,
how many horsepower is my
you
AC?
calculate everything. Even when you want to sleep, you already know the one that should be on. You know the reading. It makes us become learned in that area. It even increases education literacy and all that. So that is the thing. The challenge is that if government can find a way to meet this metering deficit, to bridge this metering deficit, it's going to help us in a lot of ways in this sector.
I wanted to chip in something just to add maybe more context to what you were saying about metering. Another thing with metering is I feel like it would create this state where we know how much we are consuming. So if the suppliers know how much is being demanded, okay, like this is our effective demand for electricity in our economy. We know the investment that we need. We know the supply that we need to meet that effective demand. Which I feel like would also like give the discos, because everybody in the sector
proper planning.
You can plan. You can phase it. Okay, by this year we'll have met 60% of the total demand.
Yes.
So we'll be working towards until
we get to our
targets.
Exactly.
So it brings up the question that if the government had moved away from the postpaid metering system and decided to come to this prepaid metering system, then isn't there some way that it could have been enforced after a period of time so that it would incentivize more people to get it, right? Like saying if you do not have a prepaid meter, then you won't have access to electricity. Right?
If there's a legislation like that if you don't have a prepaid meter, you won't have access. If I have an apartment or a house, it's not for me to get meter. Because I am a subscriber. You understand? It's like I want to subscribe to your network, MTN. or Glo or Airtel or whatever, you are supposed to give me the what? SIM card.
Yes.
That's all. So if I'm subscribing to electricity, the SIM card is my prepaid meter.
Yes.
You understand? So you're supposed to give me a meter. So once you finish building your house today, you approach the discos and say, I finished my house. Come and connect me. It's the disco's responsibility to connect you and give you a metering system. The metering system is the one that generates your bill. What have you consumed? So it's not even your own responsibility as a consumer. You understand? So where the problem is coming from is that why moving to prepaid meter system, metering system? I think the challenge is that most of these things are coming from abroad. Most of these products. I think recently now effort has been made to see how some local manufacturers can do it. But the challenge is that even the components still come from abroad. So they need massive investment, massive support to produce those meters. I think it's a massive. I think there are a lot of value chain that can be created along that line if government can seek partnership. But one thing one area I can fault government is that when government rolled it out, they said it's free. They said meter was free. To get these things free. No. If I need a SIM card, I have to buy my SIM card.
Exactly.
So if I want to connect electricity, it should be. So if they allow us, if they tell us, okay, for a single phase, it's so 1,000 naira. For a triple, it's in phases, 2 phases, double phase, triple phase, or 3 phases is so. So when you are now connecting, you pay. Once you pay, they make that meter available to you. Then, whether we are importing or we need the investors to support the local producers to produce this prepaid meter, then since they know the market is there, because people need it, people will pay for it. Then it will solve the problem. But when government started, government said it was free. So everybody will relax. I say, well, government has told me it's free, so why should I pay? That was the problem. So I think that's what we really need to look at, and then change that policy to make sure that as you finish your construction, you need this. This is the amount you pay for it. Once demand is there, effective demand is there, as you said, it's easy to meet supply. That's all. Yeah. So whether we are importing or we are getting it from local sources, it has to come.
So let me digress and maybe go into one of those points that you made. And I think that may be the crux of our problem, is that TCN, the transmission, because they are the intermediary between the GENCOs and the DISCOs. So if we're to unbundle the TCN or to privatize it, what benefits are we going to? So we look at the benefits that we stand to gain, and then so what are the disadvantages? And then if you now want to do like a CBA, cost benefits, is it in the long run going to be beneficial to Nigerians, or is it something that may also come up with its own issues that may still keep us where we are or even take us back in terms of?
Let me get your question. If you are to unbundle what?
The TCN, the transmission company.
It's already unbundled.
So it's still a government.
Now, do you know now, based on the new act signed into law by President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, it's not only state government that can generate. Even prior to this, just that then, if you generate as an individual, because if you can generate up to 1 megawatt, even you as an individual, if you generate electricity of up to 1 megawatt, the only thing is that you have to contribute it to the national grid. You sell it, okay, through NBET. You sell it to the bulk trader, okay. They buy it from you, and it goes through the national grid. You understand?
Yeah.
Now, the challenge is that currently, individuals can generate, private sector can generate, anybody. The only challenge has been transmission, and the transmission now has been broken down. It's now concurrent. It's not only government now. However, when you talk about transmitting electricity, it's not like a phone. It's not like SIM or networks. It requires solid infrastructure. And that is why it must have a concerted effort, or the effort has to be concerted. And that was why government in his wisdom said Transmission Company of Nigeria. Federal government monitors that. So the lines are there, everything goes to that issue. But all these people that destroy our infrastructure or things like that. And whenever there is a gas shortage of gas supply, national grid collapses or something like that. That is why now, if a state is building, it doesn't have to be a state. It will be difficult for individual to transmit for a long time. Yeah. You know that even Dangote refinery has some in his refinery now, they are going to generate some electricity, which if they are to transmit, I don't think they are going to transmit it through national grid too. It has to, the effective way of transmitting that will have to be through what? To the local areas around the Bejuleki. You understand? So it is easier for Dangote to then put up that infrastructure to transmit around that area directly. You understand? Yeah. But it cannot go far. It will only be that area. Now, if you want electricity to be more effective, that will go far away from the generating source. If you have to do that, government has to be involved. Who owns the land? It's government. You need those government infrastructure.
So it can't be fully privatized.
It can't be fully privatized. There's no way. Government has to come in one way or the other. The only thing, and then there's an argument that, like I started from there, that if you make transmission to become in bits and pieces, mini grids, it will be too costly. It will be too costly.
You can't even coordinate
properly. Aside from that, you can't pay for it because you need management of those grids. It will be too costly.
So it definitely should be a government.
So the best is that government has to be involved, and it has to be like a for instance, the national grid. Maybe for instance, we can have only 3 grids. Maybe the national grid is still there, and maybe 2 more mini grids. Maybe south region or something. Maybe 2 mini grids. Not that we have small grids. If I thought we want to have small thing, maybe just one local area, not. Yeah, so it's going to be too costly.
If we're looking at
look at, for instance, some estates generate electricity.
Yeah.
Their estate is 24 hours. Yeah. Go and ask how much is 1 kilowatt of electricity.
I've heard.
Some charge 500 naira, some charge 600 naira. And when government, even the band A enjoying 20 to 24 hours, is 206. It used to be 225 kilowatts per kilowatt, 225 naira per kilowatt. Currently, it's around 206, 80 kobo kilowatts. You see it now. Yeah. So with that grid, it's cheaper than to be having mini grid. It's going to be more expensive.
So if the government were to phase out these subsidies totally, how do you think that Nigerians are adequately enriched to pay for it?
Previously, you mentioned alternative means of generating power, like solar, right? And we've been meaning to ask, do individuals or small corporations or small families, do you think that it is beneficial for them to invest in alternative means of power, as well as also big corporations or the government? Do you think the government should invest in alternative means of power like solar?
Well, alternative, which we call renewable energy. Okay, alternative is always renewable.
Green energy.
Is that no? Thank you, green energy. Thank God I'm an energy and environmental economist. So, we preach green. Good sustainability, and alternative is really very good for a lot of benefits that it brings. At least climate change issue, it can help us to solve it to a large extent and things like that. However, while it might be easier for individual to invest in alternative energy, is a bit challenging for government. Why? For instance, if you talk about solar, you need, for individual, you can use your roof for your solar panel, no problem. For government to massively generate this, you need massive amount of land, hectares of land for this solar panel. Those land becomes unusable for other activities. It's only for solar. Because government cannot build houses and then now put solar. It has to be land. Okay. For some countries like China and all that, they normally use all these deserts or like swampy areas. You understand?
Nothing is
going to be. Thank you. But the problem with our own terrain in Nigeria now, we talk about security. Even if government say, okay, let me go and use a swampy area or people like that, will these things not be destroyed? Even ordinary transmission, this year you see transmission line being destroyed, vandalized. And these solar panels are very expensive. That is a challenge. So, yes, government is, because I know the Nigerian government is also investing into alternative. But how much? what is the capacity?
How feasible is it?
No, what is even the capacity they can generate through alternative? So I'm still telling you that most of our generation will still come through fossil fuel. Okay. Now, the individual, yes, is massive. However, the cost is capital intensive. Although over the long term, it's cheaper. Because by the time you spend money on, let's say 4 million or 3 million or 2 million, depending on your capacity and your gadgets you are using. By the time you generate that now and you spend so much, over 2-3 years, by the time you divide what you are consuming or the electricity you are enjoying, divide by your appliances and your generation, you see that it's cost effective.
Over a long
So the challenge is that do people have the purchasing power to do that? If they do that, fantastic. It's nice. I've even recommended it to a lot of homes because I am on solar and I enjoy it so much. 24 hours electricity uninterrupted. And the solar panels, the beauty of them is that what you just do is you put once in a while, maybe once in a year or 2 years, they just clean them. That's all. Doesn't have problem.
The batteries themselves.
Just batteries, maybe like some can be 2 years, then you change the waters. If it's all this what do you call them now? Maybe it's all these tubular batteries. But if it is a dry cell, you change them. That's all. So I think it's just cost wise.
Okay, so I think this will be our last question, and with this we're going to round up. If our conversation is solution based, we're trying to look for solutions or to recommend a framework that can be worked on. So since the states allowing or moving electricity concurrently is still a recent development, and different states, some states like Lagos, I think Osun, a few states have come up with their own framework. So for states that don't have a framework, or for states that already have a framework, what are those important things that you think that should be in that framework to ensure that, let's say, in the next 10 years maximum, we have maybe up to 20 states in Nigeria where we can enjoy, or residents of those states can enjoy 24/7 electricity?
So what you are saying is that how can states come together? What?
Yes, so states, whether working with other states or individually as a state, create a framework, and what are those things that should be in that framework?
Okay, the challenge is that terrain is also very important. That is why most times maybe a regional something can be good. Maybe it can be good. However, all you just need to do is to get investors in. Government cannot do it alone. You need to get the experts and people that have this money. It should be an agreement. It should be a kind of partnership between the government and the private sector. That is the first framework. When that is there, you get the experts in, they look at the terrain, and they look at what works for those states. But all the intending states have to agree. For instance, is it southwestern states? They have something common among themselves. Then from there, it's easier than to say you want to do maybe southwest and south. Terrain issue comes in and things like that. So that's
it should be based on
the region.
It will be a bit better if it is more region because of proximity and terrain. At times there are some natural demarcations. Yes, so
that's true. I understand. Like for example, the south is swampy,
and things like that. Yeah, that's
the high areas,
drier. Exactly, and exactly in just there like higher areas, mountainous areas. So it should be more tailored towards like regional development.
It could. It's not a must, but I think it could be better. Yeah, more beneficial.
In the southwest, they have an investment. I think Odua investment.
Yeah.
So those are the kind of things that should be working and looking.
Instead of having a state electricity or something, no, it will be more expensive.
So, Dr. Mesagan, thank you so much for coming with us today to speak on these energy issues. I'm sure the session has been insightful for all of our viewers and all of our listeners.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Mesagan, once again. And for our viewers, we would like you to leave a comment on what you've learned. Have you been able to figure out what band you're on? And if you have, drop them in the comment section. Like, share, and most importantly, subscribe. And we'll see you when we see you. Thank you.
Thank you very much.